I'm going to remarry an 18-year-old girlfriend. You're in the way, so get lost. You're saying you want a divorce, right? That's what I'm saying. Come on, don't joke about stuff like that. You've all treated me poorly for so long. It's too late to panic now that you're faced with a divorce. What? We're not panicking. We're mad that you're the one who first mentioned divorce to Mom. Lower your voice. How can Mom stay so calm about this? I'm mad too. All right, should we get a divorce then? Oh, you're going to grant me that. Makes things easier. Wait, Mom, are you sure about that? After handling the upbringing of our 3 kids, their extracurriculars, managing household chores, and taking care of my father-in-law, my husband suddenly demanded a divorce. I agreed to it without much resistance, which shocked my daughter, making her raise her voice even higher. My husband celebrated, raising his fists in joy. My daughter doesn't seem convinced by what I said, but that's okay. If everything goes as I expect, things should work out. Even after blocking his calls, my ex-husband showed up at our home a month later. I'm a 37-year-old part-timer, and I got married to Bob, who's 2 years older than me after an unexpected pregnancy. After marriage, we were blessed with 2 children. Our 13-year-old daughter, Katie, is now in middle school, and our first son, Jake, has turned 6 and started elementary school. With 1 child in middle school and another in elementary, one would think the most hectic parenting days are behind us. But 2 years ago, our younger son, Tim, was born, so we're still deep in the parenting chaos. However, I have strong support, so I've managed to juggle household chores, parenting, and work. Yes, you had it. Prepare it yourself. I'll get ready after breakfast. Didn't you forget to take it with you last week? Prepare it first. Seeing me always hustling and bustling, my daughter naturally started to back me up. She's already showing signs of being a strong-willed mother figure, and it's honestly a relief to have her helping out. I'm admittedly relying on her a bit too much, but sometimes I feel ashamed to rely on my child for parenting support. However, leaning on my daughter is due to me working, parenting, and also taking care of my father-in-law. Mary, I'm sorry, but I need to go to the bathroom. Can you help me? Sure, let's stand up slowly. I always feel bad asking for help. My father-in-law always looks apologetic towards me, but I've never found him to be a burden. Although people call it caregiving, my father-in-law just has weak legs, and with some support, he can manage his daily tasks by himself. So it's more about support than actual caregiving. However, my father-in-law, Ken, is 70, and my mother-in-law is 68. My mother-in-law can't support my father-in-law by herself, so for about 3 years now, our family has been living with my in-laws. Living with in-laws can often lead to disputes, but luckily I've stayed out of it. Welcome home, Mary. Thanks for your hard work at the part-time job. Lunch is ready. You'll eat right. Thanks, I'll have some. I really appreciate it. Don't mention it. Oh, by the way, I noticed Jake's school shirt had a missing button, so I fixed it. I hope it's okay. I went ahead and did that. You fixed it for him. That helps a lot. Thank you. My mother-in-law often helps out with housework and taking care of my children. In addition, my father-in-law enjoys spending time with Jake when he gets home from school. When I was pregnant with Tim, I don't know what we would have done without their help. Ironically, even though we moved in to help my in-laws, it feels like they're the ones supporting us more. I often feel indebted to my in-laws for this, but they always reassure me that there's no need. I really appreciate you, Mary. Living with your spouse's parents can't be easy, but you've taken it in stride. That's right. I can't manage Ken on my own. Besides, we love being able to live with our grandchildren. You might think we're helping out, but we genuinely enjoy doing these things. It's been 3 years since we started living with my in-laws, and while there have been busy moments, life has been fun. However, there's one thing that worries me. Over these 3 years, I've noticed a gradual change in my husband's behavior. One morning, it was the usual scene. Didn't you forget to give out the paper yesterday? I always tell you to do it properly. I just forgot yesterday. Okay, Mary, when you're heading home from your shift today, could you pick up some sewing thread from the store? Sure. Could you also buy me a new nail clipper? The one I'm using now has become dull. It seems my husband doesn't care much for this mundane scene. You have it good, don't you? You help with the housework and taking care of the children. How can you say that? You probably don't know, since you don't help, but both housework and childcare are challenging. Plus, I have to go to work as well. You're just working a laid-back part-time job, aren't you? What's gotten into you, Dad? Taking your frustrations out on Mom. It's not like that. There are folks who handle housework, childcare, and their jobs all by themselves. I just want to say you have it too easy. My husband left his toast untouched and left for work. I sometimes face complaints from my husband. It seems he's displeased with the fact that I get help from his parents. But thanks to Katie being on my side and my in-laws backing me up, my husband often reluctantly steps down, perhaps feeling uncomfortable being the odd one out. My husband started spending less time at home. Welcome back. You're late again today, huh? I don't need dinner. I'm going to take a shower and go to bed. My husband started coming home later and began spending weekends on his own. Even though the lack of support from the family is his own doing, he's sulking about it. It feels like we have a fourth child in the house. But remember, he's a grown man nearing 40 and a father. We can't have him acting like a child forever. I don't mind if you don't help with housework, but could you at least assist a little with childcare? Why don't you ask my mom or someone else? Didn't Katie start attending swimming classes? She comes home late, so I pick her up. And Jake joined a soccer club, remember? It's fine during regular practice, but there are times during the weekend when I have to drive him a bit farther for friendly matches. I can't ask her to do that, can I? I'm not doing any pickups or drop-offs. Why do I have to do that after retiring from work? Even late at night or on my days off, you work part-time and can drive, so you should handle it. If I'm busy driving the kids around, who's going to manage the house? I'd end up relying on your parents even more. I understand you're tired from work, but help out a bit, won't you? Didn't you promise to support when they started their activities? If you can't handle the pickups and drop-offs, maybe they shouldn't be doing those activities. My husband's complaints aren't just directed at me. He's frustrated that our children don't take his side either. Sometimes it feels like my husband is the most demanding child of all. I can't ask the kids to quit their activities, so I decided to handle their pickups and drop-offs myself. But I can't keep leaning on my in-laws more than I already am. I made sure not to increase their burden, but the drive takes about 1 to 2 hours. This affects the efficiency of housework and childcare. To compensate, I wake up early or cut down on sleep to get everything done. I use every spare moment for housework and childcare without a break. Even with a body exhausted from all this, I also go to my part-time job and continue supporting my father-in-law. I can't keep pushing myself indefinitely. When I talked to my husband again, he said, "Didn't I tell you?" I'm not doing the pickups and drop-offs, and flatly refused. So I've continued doing it all, hiding my exhaustion. When I get home, my daughter Mary asks, "Are you okay? Isn't the drive tough?" I force a smile and say, "I'm fine. I'll get dinner ready." I can't rely on my in-laws more than I already do, even though it might be better. But that's just not who I am. Then bad things kept happening. My father-in-law passed away from a heart attack in the hospital. Katie, my mother-in-law, and I shed tears while Jake looked down with tears in his eyes. My 2-year-old son, Tim, doesn't understand the situation and looks puzzled. My husband was nonchalant about it all, saying, "Well, Dad was over 70. It's a part of life. Let's think positively. No more helping him with the bathroom or bath." His comment was incredibly insensitive, but our sadness was overwhelming, so we ignored him and mourned our loss. The emotional distance between my husband and our family grew further. 2 years after my father-in-law's passing, my husband continues to act recklessly. He doesn't help with housework or childcare, and I'm still the one taking our kids everywhere. The trips to drop off and pick up Tim from preschool have increased. He comes home later than before, sometimes not even returning on weekends, and he's been reckless with money. "Did you spend money again?" I ask. "It's fine, isn't it? Most of it is money I earned anyway," he responds. "We have 3 children. We still need money. Stop wasting it," I say. "Enough. Just keep quiet and take care of the house," he snaps. Our relationship has grown ice cold. We haven't divorced mainly because of our children and my concern for my mother-in-law. She sometimes tells me it's okay to leave him, but I can't bear the thought of leaving her with him. A turning point came when my mother-in-law suffered a stroke. Though her life wasn't in danger, she was left with cognitive impairments. She mistakes memories from years ago for recent events and repeats the same stories. Katie has been a huge help with caregiving and housework, and seeing her, Jake started helping by taking care of Tim. This is what supporting each other in a family means, but my husband's support isn't part of this. "Why doesn't that guy help out at home?" Katie asks, frustrated. "I'd rather not have him interfere," I say. "My husband continues to come home late and goes out on weekends. While his spending is an issue, I'm not interested in what he's doing outside, so it's better if he remains indifferent." About 6 months after my mother-in-law fell ill, my husband dropped a bombshell. "I'm going to remarry an 18-year-old girlfriend. You're in the way, so get lost." I was so shocked that I couldn't speak. Even with help, I've been managing household chores, raising our children, and working. I took care of his father and am still caring for his mother. Why would my husband, who hasn't helped with anything at home or with my in-laws, suddenly ask for a divorce? And now he says he's going to remarry an 18-year-old girl. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't understand what he was saying. "So you're saying you want to get divorced?" I asked. "That's right," he confirmed. "Don't joke about this," I said. I thought Katie was asleep, but she was awake and overheard our conversation. She burst into the room, unable to hold herself back. "You've always treated me poorly," my husband said. "It's too late to get flustered now that I've asked for a divorce." "I'm not flustered. We're mad that you're the one asking Mom for a divorce," Katie retorted. Her anger was so intense that I couldn't talk to my husband. It's nice that she's mad at him for me, but at this rate, Jake and Tim might wake up. "Katie, don't raise your voice," I said. "How can you stay so calm, Mom? I am mad too, but first, let your dad and I talk. You go back to your room." "No, I'm still here," Katie said, crossing her arms and glaring at my husband, showing no intention of moving. It's not ideal to talk about divorce in front of my child, but sometimes it's unavoidable. "So you were always coming home late or going out on weekends for that girl, huh?" I asked. "Yeah, I've been seeing her for about a year now. She's a waitress at my favorite local pub. Unlike you, she's nice and sweet," he said. "That sounds like an affair rather than just dating. She's too young, isn't she? Are her parents okay with this?" "Her parents are against it. If she marries me, she'll be disowned," he replied. "How are you planning on getting married without her parents' approval?" I asked. "Doesn't matter. We can get married. We've been waiting for this for a year," he said. I tried to address the human connections and morals, but it felt like I was talking to a brick wall. At this point, I couldn't care less about the divorce or the affair. What worried me was what would happen to my mother-in-law after the divorce. I glanced at a photo of her on a shelf in the corner of the room. Seeing her smiling face brought me relief, and I remembered how she always told me it was okay to let go. "All right, shall we get a divorce?" I asked. "Oh, you're willing to divorce?" "That makes things easier," he said, looking elated. "Wait, Mom, are you sure about this?" Katie asked, raising her voice in surprise. "It's okay," I said, trying to convey with my eyes that there was more to this decision than met the eye. Katie seemed to understand my feelings, but my husband didn't catch on. We've decided to get a divorce, but with children involved, there are still many details to discuss. So I can't leave the house right now, I said. Of course, you can take the children, he said. Absolutely. In fact, take them. They're in the way, such a hassle. Got it? But I can't just leave with them right now. Give me a moment, I said. Fine, you can stay here until you find a place to move. I'll be with my girlfriend till then, but make sure to leave in 2 weeks, he said, leaving the house happily. Katie looked at me anxiously. Don't worry, honey. You really think a man like that can be happy? I bet Grandpa up in heaven will make sure he gets what's coming to him, I said, trying to ease her worries with a reassuring smile. Seeing me smile, she gave me a slight, relieved smile in return. The next day, I reported my decision to divorce to my mother-in-law. I'm sorry, but I've decided to get a divorce, I told her. It's all right, dear. I'm sorry for all the hardships till now, she said, though I'm not sure if she fully understood the gravity of the situation. Her words were a comfort to me. 2 weeks later, I left the house with my 3 children. We moved to a place not too far from my hometown to avoid transferring the children to a different school and to continue my part-time job. The divorce went smoothly since I didn't bring up his affair. I decided not to press on about the affair because getting child support without any hiccups was more important to me. In exchange for not bringing up the affair, he agreed to pay child support. Eager to start his life with his 18-year-old new wife, my ex-husband Bob didn't think twice about the long-term implications and accepted my terms. How long do you think he'll last? Katie asked. 2 months, I'm guessing, I said. A month. You think he's that weak? Surely he can hold out for at least 2 months, she said. I explained to Katie why I divorced him without making a big fuss. Understanding my reasoning, she looked forward to the day he would falter. A month after the divorce, I got a call from my ex-husband on my cell. See, it's been about a month, right? Katie said. Not yet. I don't think he's at his breaking point, so let's watch for a bit longer, I said. From then on, my ex-husband called me incessantly, almost every 10 minutes during the night. With all the calls, I couldn't relax at home, so I blocked his number. He had my address, so if he was desperate, he'd come to my house. A month after blocking him, he finally showed up at my door. Please come back, I was wrong. He pleaded loudly through the door. Given it was nighttime, I didn't want to stir up gossip among the neighbors, so I reluctantly let him in to hear him out. I left Tim with Jake and sat with Katie to listen to his story. I'm guessing I already know what happened, but can you explain? I asked. After you left, I started living at my parents' home with my girlfriend and mom. He began. Let me guess, your girlfriend couldn't handle taking care of your mother and gave up. I interrupted. Yeah, I didn't think she'd bail so easily, he admitted. Even Katie managed it when she was in middle school. Caring for an elder isn't about guts, it's about love and commitment. Katie and I cared for your mother because we are family. You thought some girl would just step in and take care of your mother because you told her to. I said, Did you dump all the housework on her? Katie asked. Anyone would get fed up, especially an 18-year-old. I added, So did you two break up? No, we weren't even officially married yet. We were planning it on our anniversary, he replied. It's a blessing in disguise for her. She dumped you just like that, I said. From my own experience, I knew young women sometimes find older men attractive, but the reality of marital life and taking care of an elder can be overwhelming, especially at 18. I doubted he had prepared her for the reality. Her parents are taking her in. What do you mean they're taking her in? I asked. Well, if your wife runs out on you, you chase after her, right? But her parents are saying she's scared and that I shouldn't come around anymore. They even threatened to talk to a lawyer, he explained. A 40-year-old man pressuring an 18-year-old girl is indeed scary. Her parents protecting her was natural. Consulting a lawyer showed they were serious. I couldn't imagine ever cutting ties with my children, but he probably could. I don't care about you or your new wife anymore. What I'm worried about is Grandma. Is she all right? I asked. She's asleep. I've set up a security camera, he said. Unbelievable. Hand over the keys now, Katie demanded, snatching the keys from him and immediately going to check on my mother-in-law. What were you thinking? I've reached my limit. No matter what I do, she's always like this, he said. Maybe she calls for us and not you because you're not really being family to her. Just because you're blood doesn't make you family. If you were truly family, you'd understand what she's trying to say, I said. He looked down, unable to respond. If he had shown regret before, it would have been better. I handed him a brochure I had prepared. I don't plan on remarrying you, but you can't take care of your mother. How about putting her in a care facility? I suggested. I felt more at ease with her in a facility than with him. The brochure was from a facility close to our house, one reason we didn't move far away after leaving our previous home. All right, I'll do it, he agreed. I had achieved my goal. I got divorced, protected my mother-in-law, and ensured we could visit her anytime. So, shall we head to your place? I asked. Wait, does that mean? He started, thinking his remorse had touched my heart. Don't get the wrong idea. I'm just picking up Katie. She ran off without giving me a chance to stop her. It's nighttime, and it's only natural for me to get our child, even if our homes are close by, I clarified. Realizing he had jumped the gun, he looked dejected. Although I returned to our old home after 2 months, I didn't meet my mother-in-law then. I just took my eldest daughter and went straight home. I could meet my mother-in-law any time, so for now, just hearing from my eldest daughter was enough. Grandma said she went hiking yesterday. She's as energetic as ever, Katie said. It's not fair that only Sis got to see Grandma. I wanted to see her too, Jake complained. It's late now, so be patient. We're going to be able to see Grandma from now on. I reassured them. It seems like your plan worked out, Katie said. Yes, I was able to separate him from Grandma. On the way home, I felt so happy thinking about seeing my mother-in-law again that I found myself humming while driving. Later, my mother-in-law entered the care facility. How have you been feeling? I asked. I've been feeling good lately, she replied. According to the staff, when my mother-in-law first arrived, she looked gloomy and didn't speak much. But when my children and I started visiting, her mood gradually lightened and she began talking more. Meanwhile, my ex-husband was left living alone in the old family house. He gave up on his new bride when her parents threatened legal action. I'm really glad he didn't become a stalker, but I bet his girlfriend must have been terrified. As an adult, you need to know when to back off. I later found out he had made a mistake at work. Apparently, it was a big one that got him sidelined. He didn't like it when I was thriving at home while he was struggling at work. Feeling isolated, he sought allies outside and ended up with an 18-year-old girl. His childlike behavior led to our divorce, and he ultimately ended up alone. This took a toll on his mental health, leading to more mistakes at work. He faced demotions and pay cuts. Considering his mental state, I think he should take a break from work, but he probably can't afford to. When we divorced, I agreed not to make a fuss about his affair in exchange for child support. So, he doesn't have much money left, but he needs to pay child support and cover the costs of my mother-in-law's care facility. It's tough when you don't have someone to lean on. I got a job to support my children. Tim is still young, but Katie and Jake are taking care of him. It's really comforting to have someone who genuinely supports you.
The breeze whipped my hair across my face as the cherry blossoms rained down around us. I looked over at Nolan, taking in his chiseled jawline and kind eyes. He had one hand rested gently on the back of my wheelchair as he pushed me along the winding path in the park. "It's so beautiful here," I said. "Thank you for bringing me." "Of course, darling," Nolan replied, leaning down to plant a soft kiss on my forehead. "I'd do anything for you, you know that." I smiled up at him, my heart swelling. After the accident that left me paralyzed, Nolan had been my rock. He took care of my every need, catering to my wheelchair, helping me bathe, making sure I took my medications. I didn't know what I would do without him. We continued through the park, the pavement smooth beneath my wheelchair. Up ahead, the path sloped downwards towards a small bridge crossing a stream. "Oh, look, the bridge," I said. "Let's stop for a moment once we cross." "Of course," Nolan said, his voice suddenly tense. As we started down the slope, he pivoted my chair sideways. Before I could ask what he was doing, he leaned down, his lips nearly touching my ear. "I'm bankrupt," he whispered harshly. "I've blown through your inheritance. I need that life insurance money if we're going to live comfortably." My heart dropped into my stomach as words registered. "What are you saying?" I gasped. "I'm so sorry about this, darling." With that, he shoved my wheelchair forward with immense force. I screamed as I hurtled down the steep slope, bracing myself as the wheelchair hit the bottom and flipped over, tossing me onto the hard ground. Sharp pain radiated through my body and my vision blurred. "Nolan!" I tried to shout, but it came out as a whimper. I heard his footsteps crunching on the gravel as he approached. When he leaned over me, his face was a mask of anguish. "Oh my God, Alara!" he cried. "I'm so sorry. I lost control of your wheelchair. Here, let me get you back in." As he righted the wheelchair, disbelief flooded through me. He was pretending that this was an accident. He scooped me up and gently placed me back in the seat, his brows knitted together in feigned worry. I scanned the area wildly, but we were alone. "What have you done?" I choked out, barely able to get the words out past the pain in my ribs. "Shh," he soothed. "Try not to move. You might have broken something. I'm going to call an ambulance." As he pretended to dial his phone, I saw a flash of panic cross his face. His plan had gone horribly wrong. He knelt down next to me again, taking my hand in his. "Just hang on, baby. Help is coming. I promise I'll take care of you." The false affection in his voice made me want to vomit. Hot tears spilled down my cheeks as I realized the man I loved had tried to kill me. The steady beep of the heart monitor greeted me as I blinked open my eyes. I was in a hospital room, my body aching. Nolan sat in a chair next to the bed, his leg heavily bandaged. He looked up as I stirred, relief washing over his face. "Oh, thank God you're awake," he gushed, grasping my hand. "I was so worried." My pulse quickened as memories came flooding back. The wheelchair careening down the hill, Nolan's cold confession, his botched attempt to kill me. I yanked my hand away. "Don't touch me," I hissed. Nolan drew back, feigning confusion. "Alara, what's wrong?" "You pushed me down that hill. You wanted me dead for the insurance money," I accused. Nolan's mouth fell open. "What?" "No, it was an accident. I would never hurt you, Alara. I tried to stop the wheelchair, but it went out of control. I jumped down the slope after you, but my leg got caught between the wheelchair spokes as I tried to stop your fall. I'm so sorry I couldn't prevent you from getting hurt." I studied his face, searching for any hint of deception, but found only earnest concern. "The doctor said you have a concussion," Nolan continued. "You must have imagined what happened due to the head trauma." Doubt crept into my mind. Could I have imagined it? My memories from that day were hazy. And now Nolan was injured too. I glanced at his bandaged leg, guilt replacing the suspicion. I'm sorry," I stammered. "I must be confused." Nolan squeezed my hand reassuringly. "It's okay. I'm just glad you're all right." Over the next few days, as my injuries healed, Nolan doted on me relentlessly. He fluffed my pillows, fed me soup, and held my hand when the pain meds wore off. His unwavering devotion made me feel foolish for ever questioning his intentions. But as the weeks passed, small things seemed off. Nolan became obsessed with money, poring over our accounts and insurance policies. He insisted on extravagant home modifications to accommodate my wheelchair, urging me to pay for them with my inheritance. One night, as I wheeled into the bedroom, Nolan slammed his laptop shut quickly. "What are you looking at?" I asked. "Oh, nothing important," he said, avoiding eye contact. While he was in the shower, I opened the laptop and accessed the browser history. My heart sank as I saw searches for how to increase your spouse's life insurance and big payouts for accidental deaths. Nolan hadn't been searching for accident victims to help. He was researching how to profit from my hypothetical accidental death. Bile rose in my throat as I finally accepted the truth. The devoted caregiver routine was an act to keep me under his control. The man I loved was trying to murder me. Over the next few weeks, I settled into a new normal. The doctors said my paralysis was permanent, so Nolan dutifully catered to my needs. But his mask slipped more each day. He obsessed over my inheritance, insisting I use it to convert our home into a wheelchair paradise. Meanwhile, he splurged on golf clubs, TVs, and gadgets. One night at dinner, he brought it up again. "Alara, I really think we should overhaul the entryway and widen the door frames downstairs. We need to make this house accessible for you." I pushed my food around my plate, anxiety churning in my gut. "Those renovations will deplete the remainder of my inheritance. Can't we just make do?" Nolan frowned, a flash of anger in his eyes. "But don't you want to be comfortable and self-sufficient? This inheritance is meant to be used on you." I couldn't tell him the truth, that I was preserving those funds to escape someday. "Let's just discuss it later," I said weakly, hoping to placate him. After dinner, I went upstairs and discovered Nolan had installed a new safe in our closet. He never mentioned it, and it was already locked. What was he hiding? A few nights later, Nolan left his email open on my laptop. My eyes fixed on one message from an insurance company with the subject line, "Policy Upgrade Request." Hands trembling, I opened it. Nolan had asked to increase my life insurance and add an accidental death payout. When I confronted him, he insisted it was just to provide for me in case of tragedy. But I knew it was premeditation. The final straw came a week later when I overheard Nolan on the phone scheduling a lavish housekeeping service. We didn't need it, but he seemed hell-bent on draining my inheritance with frivolous spending. After he hung up, I wheeled into the kitchen and tossed my checkbook onto the counter. "I'll be handling my own finances going forward," I informed him coldly. Nolan's facade fully slipped, his face contorting in anger. "How dare you? That money is as much mine as it is yours." "It's my inheritance," I shot back, "and I'm done letting you blow it." Nolan advanced on me, his voice a low snarl. "You ungrateful bitch. After everything I've done for you." Adrenaline coursed through me. "The jig is up, Nolan. I won't let you steal my inheritance while you plot my murder." Rage blazed in his eyes, but he quickly masked it. "Don't be ridiculous," he sneered. "I'll never understand your paranoia. But fine, manage your own money. It doesn't change my love and devotion." His duplicity infuriated me further, but I held my tongue. I needed to protect my finances at all costs until I could find a way out. Over the next few weeks, money became a battleground in our home. I took over the finances, carefully tracking every penny. When Nolan demanded I hire his lavish housekeeping service, I refused. "We don't need it," I said firmly. "I can handle the cleaning." Nolan's face darkened. "But in your condition." "I'm fine," I cut him off. "We're not wasting money." After that, our arguments escalated. Nolan increasingly spent money behind my back, on expensive takeout when I cooked simple meals, new electronics, anything he desired. One day, I came home to find he had purchased a $3,000 Tempur-Pedic mattress without consulting me. "Return it now," I demanded. "Why are you being so controlling?" he shot back. "I'm just trying to make our home nicer for you." "Bullshit," I spat. "You're bleeding our accounts dry, trying to spend my inheritance before I cut you off." Nolan's expression contorted in rage. For a moment, I thought he might hit me, but he quickly smoothed his face into a mask of polite concern. "Alara, I'm worried about you," he said gently. "This obsession with money isn't healthy. You know I just want what's best for you." I wanted to scream at his pathetically transparent manipulation, but I held myself in check. Over the next week, small amounts of cash began disappearing from my purse. $20 here, $50 there. I knew Nolan was taking it. Meanwhile, the utilities and credit card bills skyrocketed without explanation. One night I logged into our accounts and realized why. Nolan had increased the thermostat to 85 degrees, changed our cable package to premium channels, and added himself as an authorized user to my credit card. The next morning, I changed the thermostat back and called the cable company to downgrade our plan. When Nolan realized what I'd done, he cornered me in the kitchen. "How dare you make changes without consulting me?" he bellowed. I refused to cower. "I'm correcting your frivolous spending. You're bleeding me dry." Nolan slammed his fist on the counter. "That's my money, too. You don't get to control everything." "It's my inheritance," I shouted back. "I see exactly what you're doing, trying to drain that money, but I won't let you get away with it." Nolan stepped closer, looming over me. "You'll regret this," he hissed. "That money is the only reason I'm stuck playing your little wheelchair nursemaid." I recoiled at his words, my worst fears confirmed. Our relationship was nothing but a ruse designed to steal my inheritance. "Get away from me," I snarled. "We're done." I wheeled my chair backwards from him, my heart pounding with rage and adrenaline. The man I loved was gone. All that remained was a manipulating thief trying to drive me to bankruptcy or death. But I wouldn't back down or surrender my independence. Not to him, not to anyone. The battle lines were drawn. After our blow-up, I stopped speaking to Nolan altogether. The loving facade had slipped away, exposing his deceit. Now we coexisted in tense silence, speaking only when necessary. I continued scrutinizing our accounts, noticing strange inconsistencies. Gas and grocery expenditures were double what they should have been. When I asked Nolan about it, he got evasive. "I've just been driving more for errands," he muttered, "and groceries are expensive lately." I knew he was lying and pocketing the extra cash, but I had no proof. Suspicions gnawed at me. Where was he driving? Was he seeing someone else? I decided to find out. I called a private investigator and explained my situation. 2 days later, I received a large envelope in the mail. Hands shaking, I opened it to find photos of Nolan embracing a woman in front of a nice suburban home, captioned with an address. Bile rose in my throat as I realized the truth. Nolan had a secret family. Fury coursed through me. All the manipulation and lies weren't just about money. He was living a double life. I wanted to confront him right away, but I waited. I needed more proof before initiating the inevitable divorce. A few days later, the investigator provided bank records indicating Nolan had purchased the other home outright and was funneling money into a joint account with the other woman. Her name was Celia. Armed with evidence, I decided to confront Nolan at the hospital where he volunteered, a smokescreen for his deceit. As I wheeled into the hospital lobby, I spotted Nolan at the front desk flirting with a nurse. Before he saw me, I called out loudly, "Hey, Nolan, how's Celia doing?" Nolan's head whipped around, his face draining of color when he saw me. He quickly masked his shock with feigned confusion. "Who?" he stammered. I threw the envelope of evidence onto the desk. Photos and bank records spilled out. "Save it!" I spat. "I know about your little wifey across town. Did you really think you could get away with it?" Nolan glared at me coldly. "You don't know what you're talking about. This is absurd." I shook my head in disgust. "The jig is up, Nolan. I'm filing for divorce. Have fun splitting your assets between 2 households." I wheeled my chair away, Nolan calling after me desperately. But I didn't stop. The time for mercy was over. Over the next few days, I met with lawyers to initiate divorce proceedings, documenting Nolan's infidelity and financial deceit. I wanted to ruin him. Soon after, I sat Nolan down at home. "Here are your options," I told him icily. "Agree to a divorce with 0 spousal support, letting me keep 100% of my inheritance, or I'll make sure every one of your friends and family knows exactly what a cheating, swindling scumbag you are." Nolan pleaded with me, but I refused to back down. The man I loved was gone. In his place was a manipulative stranger who needed to pay. After I presented the evidence, Nolan had no choice but to agree to my terms. The divorce was swift and brutal, leaving him financially devastated. I walked away free, my inheritance intact, ready to begin a new chapter away from my lying, cheating ex-husband. What awaited me was unclear, but it had to be better than the nightmare I'd endured. In the months after the divorce, I focused on recovery and adapting to my new normal. My lawyer ensured I received a generous alimony, allowing me to afford live-in care. Though my paralysis persisted, my new doctor encouraged me to stay positive. "Your condition is still evolving," he assured me. "With rehabilitation, you may regain functionality." His optimism lifted my spirits. For the first time since the accident, I had hope. During one appointment, Dr. Fields reviewed my records closely, his brow furrowing. "Let's do some fresh scans," he said. The next day, I received an urgent call from Dr. Fields. "You need to come in immediately," he said gravely. "There are developments." My pulse quickened anxiously as I wheeled into his office. His expression was grim. "What is it?" I asked shakily. "The scans show your spinal cord damage is treatable," he said. "Your previous physician failed to detect this. With surgery, you could walk again." I reeled in shock. "What? But my ex-husband said my paralysis was permanent. Are you saying it's reversible?" Dr. Fields nodded. "Given proper treatment, your prognosis is very good. I believe your previous doctor misinterpreted the scans. Your ex likely concealed this from you." The revelation hit me like a freight train. Nolan had lied to keep me in a wheelchair, dependent on him. Fury boiled up inside me. "That bastard!" I exploded. "He made me believe I'd never walk again. He wanted me helpless so he could control me and access my money." "I'm very sorry," Dr. Fields said sympathetically. "Unfortunately, traumatic spinal cord injuries are often misdiagnosed. But the good news is, we can correct this. I'd like to schedule surgery right away." Overwhelmed with emotion, I broke down in tears. For months, I believed I'd spend my life in a wheelchair at the mercy of my lying, cheating ex-husband. But now a chance at freedom stood before me. The night before surgery, I met Nolan at a cafe at his desperate request. He begged me to take him back, claiming he'd changed. "Did you know my paralysis was reversible?" I demanded. "Did you keep it from me?" Nolan's silence was damning. Seething with rage, I slapped him hard across the face. "You soulless monster! You made me believe I was trapped when I could have walked away from you. Well, tomorrow I'm getting surgery so I can dance on your grave someday. I pray I never see you again." I left Nolan crying at the table, his pathetic apologies echoing behind me. The time for mercy and forgiveness had passed. Tomorrow, a new beginning awaited me. The surgery was a success. In the difficult weeks of recovery and rehabilitation that followed, spite fueled me. I imagined trampling over Nolan's broken body as I reclaimed my strength, vowing he'd never rob me of independence again. On the day I took my first solo steps, tears of joy and relief streamed down my face. I was free at last, ready to walk into a new life on my own terms. Nolan had failed. My backbone remained unbroken. In the weeks after my surgery, I wasted no time seeking final vengeance against Nolan. Legally, financially, I wanted to ruin him completely. I met with my lawyer, providing documentation of Nolan's lies about my medical prognosis. We incorporated it into the divorce proceedings to show premeditation and abuse. Nolan wouldn't just lose money in the split, his reputation would be destroyed. "You have ample grounds for additional damages," my lawyer said. "We can sequester his assets and income sources. He won't have a cent left when we're through with him." "Good," I replied coldly. "Take everything." I realized Nolan's bank fraud likely extended beyond just me. I contacted his employer and provided evidence that he had embezzled from client accounts. They immediately opened an investigation, alerting the authorities. Nolan desperately tried to convince me not to expose him further. He even had the audacity to suggest reconciliation. "Alara, haven't you punished me enough?" He pleaded on the phone. "I know I made mistakes, but we can still repair this. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." "The only mistake I made was ever trusting you," I spat back. "You tried to steal my inheritance and leave me helpless. There's no coming back from that." I hung up, feeling re-energized in my mission to obliterate him. The next day, I called his half-sister, Layla, who he always clashed with. I told her everything, from the infidelity to the financial deceit. "I knew he was selfish, but this is unbelievable," she fumed. "What a wretched snake. He's dead to me. I'll make sure everyone knows what a vile pig he is." In the weeks that followed, Nolan's life unraveled spectacularly. Friends and family shunned him. He lost his job once the fraud was exposed. Even Celia kicked him out once she learned what he did to me, disgusted by his abhorrent behavior. The divorce finalized with me receiving 80% of our shared assets plus permanent alimony payments, money he no longer had. He'd be financially ruined for years. My lawyer called one final time. "It's done," he said with satisfaction. "Your ex-husband is destitute. His reputation is shredded. You won't be hearing from him again anytime soon." A surge of relief and joy coursed through me. The bitter seeds I'd sown had bloomed into Nolan's complete destruction. He was finally reaping what he deserved, and I was forever free from his poisonous hold on my life. The day my divorce from Nolan was finalized, I walked out of the courthouse with my head held high, the sunlight warming my face. The settlement had been everything I wanted. Nolan was left penniless and alone, forced to start anew with nothing but his wretched self. In the months that followed, I reveled in my freedom and independence. I returned to work, reconnected with old friends, traveled to places I'd always dreamed of seeing. Whenever despair crept in, I repeated my mantra, "Nolan has no power over you now." My new therapist helped me process the emotional trauma I'd endured. "It's important you don't dwell on anger," she counseled gently. "Focus your energy on healing so you can fully embrace this new chapter of your life." I took her advice to heart, channeling my energy into constructive pursuits that enriched my life. I volunteered at a women's shelter, helping those escaping abusive situations. It strengthened my resolve to never again ignore red flags in a relationship. On my birthday a few months later, my friends threw a party celebrating my freedom. As we raised our glasses, Sarah made a toast. Here's to Alara, for her resilience, courage, and for shattering the chains of her miserable marriage. No one deserves this fresh start more than her. Their cheers filled me with newfound hope. The old Alara, helpless, naive, trapped, was gone. A wiser, stronger woman had taken her place. Slowly, I began dating again. After some duds, I met Adam, a kind divorcee and single father. While affection bloomed between us, I took it slow, keeping healthy boundaries. "I'm so glad you're being cautious," Sarah told me. "After everything you've endured, you deserve someone who treats you like the queen you are." While Adam was nothing like Nolan, trusting again didn't come easily. But in time, as his sincerity was proven, my walls came down, brick by brick. One night, as we strolled in the park, I paused under a canopy of twinkling lights strung between the trees. Here, surrounded by the beauty of new beginnings, my heart opened once more. When Adam proposed several months later, I accepted joyfully. While shadows of the past still lurked, the flame burning inside me was stronger. I was prepared for whatever lay ahead, holding fast to hope. On my second wedding day, I marveled at the new chapters life offers, even after devastation. With grace, courage, and perseverance, dormant seeds of joy still blossom in time. As I walked down the aisle on Adam's arm, tears pricked my eyes. My broken spirit had proven resilient. Love and vitality now stretched brightly before me. While Nolan's betrayal nearly extinguished my light, my inner inferno ultimately raged too strong to suffocate. I am more than a victim or survivor. I am the master of my fate, and my greatest triumphs still await.